There are so many great sci-fi movies in the 1950s that I can't possibly cover them all here in this one video. So instead, I'm just going to talk about what I think are the best, top-rated films from that era that were extremely influential and changed the sci-fi genre forever. So let's get right into it. Fantasy, sci-fi, nostalgia, rerun zone. The Day the Earth Stood Still, 1951. Who can disagree that this film shouldn't be at the top of the list of all-time greats? This classic film introduced the concept of peaceful aliens coming to Earth with a message: get your shit together or face total destruction. In a time when Cold War paranoia was in full swing, out of the sky comes a flying saucer that lands right near the White House. This movie introduces us to Klaatu, an extraterrestrial with one simple request: stop killing yourselves, or I'll do the job for you. Klaatu's sidekick, the robotic Gort, has the power to vaporize just about anything, so yeah, not a guy you want to mess with. When Klaatu is shot by a panicked soldier, the power of Gort is unleashed, swiftly neutralizing the threat. Now under guard, Klaatu escapes, blending into human society as Mr. Carpenter. He befriends a widow, Helen, and her young son Bobby, while seeking out a brilliant scientist, Professor Barnhart, to deliver his warning to humanity. In a demonstration of his immense power, Klaatu decides to halt all electrical activity on Earth, sending a clear signal of the consequences if mankind ignores his message. Klaatu tells Helen that if anything should happen to him, she must seek out Gort and say the words Klaatu Barada Nikto. The army tracks Klaatu down and kills him, so Helen goes to the saucer to find Gort, who retrieves Klaatu's body after she speaks those words and brings him back to life, but only temporarily. In a final plea to world leaders, Klaatu delivers an ultimatum: join the peaceful interplanetary alliance or face total annihilation. The choice is left to humanity. Forbidden Planet, 1956. This groundbreaking film is the granddaddy of future sci-fi shows, like Star Trek and Lost in Space. It features the first sci-fi film to show humans traveling in a faster-than-light starship and landing on a planet in another star system. It also featured a robot character that was more than just a tin can on legs. The story takes us to the far-off planet Altair 4 to investigate what happened to another ship that was sent there 20 years ago. There, they find Dr. Morbius, his daughter, and the famous Robbie the robot. Mobius warns them not to land, but they do anyway, because if they didn't, there wouldn't be a story, right? The crew soon learns that Morbius has been dabbling with an ancient alien technology that can manifest their deepest, darkest thoughts into reality. Not surprisingly, this isn't a good thing. Morbius shares his discovery of the Krell, an advanced race that created the machine, which has also doubled Morbius' intelligence from using the machine. When Captain Adams insists on sharing the discovery with Earth, Morbius refuses, believing humanity just isn't ready. Forbidden Planet is known for its cutting-edge special effects, from stunning alien landscape matte paintings to a deadly invisible monster. This was one of the first films to use entirely electronic music to enhance the eerie atmosphere. It's a thrilling ride that paved the way for generations of sci-fi to come. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1956. Come on now, who doesn't like a good alien pod takes over a human movie? This is one of my personal favorite sci-fi films of all time. It's a classic that starts off introducing us to the main characters, Dr. Miles Bennell, played by Kevin McCarthy, and his old girlfriend Becky, recently divorced and played on point by the lovely Dana Winter. The first hint that something is seriously wrong is when Miles arrives at his small-town home after a trip, and some of his patients are reporting that their friends and families are different. When close friend Jack calls Miles over to his home, they find what looks like a body with no features or fingerprints. When the body starts to change, taking on Jack's features including a bloody hand, Miles heads to Becky's house, afraid that she's in danger. This film is the definitive alien invasion movie. Even more terrifying because the aliens aren't portrayed as hideous monsters, but instead invade from within by absorbing a human's essence and creating exact, emotionless copies of themselves. Its themes of conformity and paranoia influenced countless future alien-themed sci-fi films. Make sure you don't fall asleep in this town. This film is a tense film noir thriller that ramps up the tension as the film goes on until the final moments of the film, with Bennell screaming, "They're here already! You're next!" It's one of the most iconic moments in sci-fi history. War of the Worlds, 1953. This classic movie brings H.G. Wells' novel from 1898 to life, but with a 1950s update. The story kicks off when a large object crashes near the small town of Linda Rosa, California. Dr. Clayton Forrester, an atomic scientist, is called in to investigate. At the crash site, he meets Sylvia Van Buren and her uncle, Pastor Collins. As they get acquainted during a town square dance, an alien hatch opens at the crash site. When three men approach waving a white flag, they're incinerated by the Martian's heat ray. Soon, reports come in of similar Martian cylinders landing around the world, with cities being destroyed. U.S. Marines surround the crash site as three Martian war machines rise menacingly from the cylinder. Pastor Collins tries to communicate with the aliens, but is instantly vaporized. The military's weapons are useless against the Martian force fields, and they counterattack with devastating death rays. The Martians are on the verge of global domination when the US government authorizes the use of an atomic bomb, but even that doesn't stop the invaders. This movie is truly groundbreaking with its use of special effects that were ahead of their time and won an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. The film quality degraded over the years, but it was fully restored to its original glory in 2018, and you can now view the fantastic special effects as they were meant to be seen. If you've never seen this movie or haven't watched it in a while, grab some popcorn, sit back, and enjoy. Them, 1954. This film was one of the first of the 1950s nuclear monster movies, and it featured giant mutated ants attacking humanity. It was an era that began with very real fears of nuclear radiation and nuclear fallout. In 1954, the desolate deserts of New Mexico hold a terrifying secret. New Mexico State Police Sergeant Ben Peterson and his partner stumble upon a young girl, mute and traumatized, wandering through the desert. Nearby they find a wrecked vehicle, its owner's missing. When they investigate, the officers encounter another discovery at a nearby general store where the owner has been viciously mutilated. Soon, FBI agent Robert Graham, Dr. Harold Medford, and his daughter Pat arrive, sent by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Dr. Medford suspects something far more horrifying than a typical animal attack. When the catatonic girl is exposed to the fumes of formic acid, which is a substance associated with ants, she wakes up screaming a single word, them. When the group returns to the desert where the girl was found, a monstrous ant, now grown to gigantic proportions, attacks them. They manage to blind it and kill it, but Dr. Medford's theory is chilling. The first atomic bomb tests have mutated the local ants into giant carnivores. Their food supply has dwindled, and now they've turned to humans. Them is a must-see if you like equal parts suspense and campy fun. It also reflects a real fear of the atomic age. The special effects are a little cheesy at times, but they were top-notch at the time. Check this one out for a good time while you're binge-watching these great 50s sci-fi flicks. The Incredible Shrinking Man, 1957. After being exposed to a strange radioactive fog, Scott Carey finds himself getting smaller and smaller, shrinking uncontrollably. At first, it's all fun and games as he doesn't even realize it until months later. But when Carey reaches the height of a small boy, his condition becomes public knowledge. He finds out there's no cure for the condition, and he gets so small that he starts to live in a dollhouse. He has a terrifying battle with the family cat, and he ends up alone in his basement, where he is now as small as an insect. The film's special effects are jaw-dropping. They create a world where everyday objects become colossal and ordinary creatures become terrifying predators. Carey is now so small that he gets into a life and death battle with a spider searching for food. He's able to kill the spider with a straight pin, but he's now completely exhausted and continues to shrink to microscopic size. The real heart of the incredible shrinking man is Carrey's contemplation of the universe and his place in it. His journey becomes almost philosophical, one man against the vast uncaring cosmos. It's a sci-fi film that's big on thrills, but even bigger on wondering about one man's place in the vast universe. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, 1954. Based on Jules Verne's classic 1870 novel, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea was produced by Walt Disney and had an all-star cast, including Kirk Douglas, James Mason, Paul Lucas, and Peter Lorre. Its underwater sequences are particularly stunning as they were using a new widescreen process called CinemaScope. Set in 1868, the story follows the mysterious Captain Nemo, played by James Mason, and his technologically advanced submarine, the Nautilus, as he travels the seas, seeking vengeance on humanity, driven by his personal vendetta against war and oppression. Our heroes are captured by Nemo and taken on a journey beneath the sea, witnessing both the beauty and the terror of the deep, including an iconic battle with a giant squid. This sequence, revolutionary for its time, remains one of the most memorable in film history. It required months of planning and execution due to the technical difficulties of bringing the creature to life. James Mason puts on a standout performance as Captain Nemo, the brooding anti-hero. Behind the scenes, there was debate over who would best embody this character. Many Hollywood heavyweights were considered before Mason was cast. His charismatic yet tortured performance is considered definitive, cementing Nemo as a legendary figure in science fiction. This film was Disney's first venture into live-action sci-fi, and man, did they hit it out of the park. It not only became an instant Disney classic, but a piece of cinema that helped push the boundaries of what was possible in filmmaking. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea remains a timeless piece of cinema history. The Fly, 1958. This 1958 sci-fi classic is a chilling tale starring the then mostly unknown David Hedison as Andre in the starring role, and the legendary Vincent Price as his brother Francois. Set in Montreal, Quebec, the film kicks off with a disturbing mystery. A scientist is found dead in his lab, with his head and arm crushed under a hydraulic press. His wife confesses to the crime, but refuses to explain why, though she's obsessed with finding a white-headed fly. This fixation leads her husband's brother to trick her into believing he caught the insect, prompting her to reveal the shocking truth. Through flashbacks, we learn that the scientist, Andre, was experimenting with a groundbreaking invention, a matter transporter. After several successful tests, he decides to try the device on himself. However, an uninvited passenger, a common housefly, gets into the chamber during the experiment. This leads to a horrifying fusion of man and insect, with Andre gaining the fly's head and arm, while the fly takes on his human features in miniature form. Desperate to reverse the accident, Andre instructs his wife Helene to catch the mutated fly. It escapes, and Andre's human mind slowly gives way to the insect's primal instincts. With no hope left, Andre destroys his lab, burns his research, and makes his wife assist in his own death. Helene confesses, but it's dismissed as delusional until they discover the fly, complete with Andre's head and arm, trapped in a spider's web. The infamous moment where the creature squeals, help me," as a spider approaches, has become one of the most iconic scenes in sci-fi horror history. The film's ending was considered so disturbing at the time that some audiences reportedly screamed during the scene where the fly, with Andre's human head, is about to be devoured by the spider. The Thing from Another World, 1951. This film was one of the earliest and most influential sci-fi horror films of the day. Its influence on future sci-fi horror is undeniable. In The Thing from Another World, also known as just The Thing, a team of military personnel and scientists stationed at the North Pole stumble upon a crashed flying saucer buried in the ice. After failing to retrieve the ship, they manage to extract a frozen alien life form, only to accidentally thaw it out. What follows is a tense struggle for survival as they battle an intelligent bloodthirsty, plant-based alien creature. The alien in the film is portrayed by James Arness, who went on to become famous as Marshal Matt Dillon in Gunsmoke. At 6 foot 7 inches tall, Arness had the perfect height to embody the terrifying, imposing creature. Interestingly, Arness hated this role and rarely spoke of it later in his career. This film might seem tame by today's horror standards, but it's truly a landmark in both sci-fi and horror cinema, beloved for its smart dialogue, ensemble cast, and slow-building suspense. It went on to inspire a 1982 remake by John Carpenter, which is a classic film in its own right. Entertaining and tense, watch the original as a nod to classic sci-fi horror cinema, and get ready for a damn good time. Journey to the Center of the Earth, 1959. This film is an epic adventure set in 1880s Edinburgh, where Professor Sir Oliver Lindenbrook, a geologist at the University of Edinburgh, embarks on a daring expedition to the center of the Earth. The story kicks off when one of Lindenbrook's students, Alec McEwen, brings him a peculiar volcanic rock which contains a cryptic message inside, a clue left by an Icelandic scientist, Arne Saknussemm, who claimed to have discovered a pathway to the Earth's core nearly a century earlier. Lindenbrook and Alec waste no time setting off for Iceland to follow in Saknussemm's footsteps. Their plans are nearly thwarted by the scheming Professor Gutenberg, who tries to beat them to the punch. But after Gutenberg's sudden and suspicious death, his widow Carla, at first hostile toward Lindenbrook, joins the expedition with her late husband's equipment on the condition that she comes along to preserve her husband's name. Accompanied by their guide, Icelander Hans, and his beloved pet duck Gertrude, the group embarks on their perilous descent into a dormant volcano. Behind the scenes, Journey to the Center of the Earth was a technical marvel for its time. It used elaborate sets and special effects to bring Jules Verne's classic novel to life. One famous bit of trivia involves the casting of the film's beloved duck Gertrude. She became a fan favorite and had her own stand-ins. A duck double was used for certain scenes, creating an amusing behind-the-scenes drama as to which duck gave the best performance. The film also featured magnificent locations, blending studio work with Icelandic landscapes to create a sense of awe-inspiring adventure. For fans of 1950 sci-fi cinema, the film's mix of action, romance, and cutting-edge effects make it a true classic. Journey to the Center of the Earth may not tackle big themes like some of the other films on this list, but it delivers on pure escapist fun, proving that sometimes the best place for sci-fi adventure is right beneath our feet. These films not only showcase the best in 1950s special effects, but also changed the entire landscape of what was possible in the science fiction genre. Next time, I'll cover the best so-called B-movies from the 1950s, and there's a whole lot to go over in that video, so stay tuned. If you're a lover of sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and nostalgia, you're going to love it here at Rerun Zone, so hit that subscribe button on your way out. With that said, this is Rich from Rerun Zone. Thanks for watching, and good night.